There was a time when all I did was play video games. As I got older, the games of my youth seemed to be replaced with story-intensive multiplayer experiences, and the industry has changed so much in just the past decade that it's been hard to catch up. Thanks to smartphones and the advent of the Wii, it seems that more people than ever are gaming. But remember when gamers were thought of as lifeless nerds who spent their formative years hiding in their parents' basements playing Donkey Kong Country or Super Mario Brothers? When I grew up, gaming was a niche activity, and you hardly ever saw your parents playing them. To be young again. Thanks to features like Xbox Arcade and the PlayStation Network, we older gamers can relive our glory days by downloading such classics as The Legend of Zelda, Super Mario World, and hell, even the Ninja Turtles arcade game, right to our living rooms, assuming we don't have the original carts gathering dust somewhere. Today, the market seems oversaturated with first-person shooters, third-person adventure games, and those annoying puzzle games that are a dime a dozen on your smartphone. I'm sure hundreds of lists like this one have been compiled before, but I figured one more sure isn't going to hurt. Here is my personal top 10 list of all-time best video games ever. Number 10. Who cares if this game was primarily made to see if there was still interest in the franchise? It was the first time I actually felt like I was in the movie. On the very first level of the game, you get to tie a tow cable around an Imperial Walker and have it look authentic. Well, authentic back then. Hey, that was a cheap shot. It still looks pretty damn good considering the now archaic hardware that is the N64, but still it deviated from the plot of the films. Set between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, you play as space pirate Dash Rendar as you infiltrate Prince Shizor's criminal organization, the Black Sun, through 10 levels of Star Wars awesomeness. Get this. The game actually uses the authentic John Williams music. You also get to choose your camera angle, fight an Imperial scout on foot, face off against Boba Fett, and engage in an epic dogfight. What the hell more could you ask for in a Star Wars game? There have been more popular, in-depth Star Wars games before and since, but this was the game that gave us our first step into a larger world. Number 9. Yeah, this was the only game in the Dwindling Duke series that seemed to leave much of an impression. Who remembers the first two games, which were side-scrollers, by the way? Bet you didn't see that one coming. I bet most of you didn't even know this was the third game in the series. Neither did I, but that didn't mean this amazing first-person shooter from 3D Realms didn't kick ass and take names.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum. And I'm all out of gum.
Spouting one-liners that were obviously ripped off from Army of Darkness, you play as Duke, the I swear I'm not gay, I'm just a badass with short blonde hair superhero Schwarzenegger wannabe who simply wants to save our chicks from an alien horde. It was the first shooter that let me fly around on jetpack, swim, jump, look around in several directions, and get this, shrink my enemies and stomp them into maggot food. It also had the strip clubs.
Shake it, baby.
Come on, I was like 9 years old when I was playing this game. I was perverted. Don't hold it against me. What I remember the most about this game was the first episode, LA Meltdown, which featured some of the best level design ever. Creeping around big open canyons and exploring an underwater laboratory, awesome. It also had a fair share of puzzle solving and an impressive array of weapons like the Duke hologram and... steroids? Okay, right on. Screw you, Pig Cop. Like any good FPS, the enemies just got harder and more intense, and the boss battles... simply epic. Now I'll go on record to say, screw all you haters out there. I love Duke Nukem Forever, even if it wasn't exactly the memorable experience that this game was. What do you expect after 12 years of development hell?
What about the game, Duke? Was it any good?
Yeah, but after 12 fucking years, it should be.
Geez, I didn't expect the game to ever come out, so just cash in your chips and run. But this was the game that made me realize FPSs had a bright future. Not for this series, but come on, this one game on its own was brilliant.
I'm Duke Nukem, and I'm coming to get the rest of you alien bastards.
Number 8.
It's me, Mario!
The original Super Mario Bros. Changed the way we thought about video games. Super Mario 3 dominated most of our early childhoods, and Super Mario World introduced many of us to a whole new era of 16-bit gaming, considered by many to be the penultimate side-scrolling adventure to feature that lovable plumber and his Goomba-chomping sidekick Yoshi. But this was the game that knocked everyone's socks off. Remember, at the time it came out, we were still getting used to playing games in the third dimension. It definitely wasn't the first game to accomplish it, but it was the most immersive Mario game at the time. For a system that was critically butchered for not making the transition to CD-ROM, Mario 64 was a huge game considering it came packaged on a cartridge. The goal was no longer to simply run as fast as you could to the end of the level before the timer ran out. You actually got to explore an entire world. It also gave Mario personality.
Here we go!
Remember finding out you could intentionally bash Mario against a wall? He could do backflips and cartwheels with ease. He could change into Metal Mario and run into anything that got in his way. He could chase after imaginary bunnies. I don't know what that was about. He could go skateboarding on turtle shells, fly out of a cannon, and don't even get me started about fighting Bowser. And they still managed to keep it fun. Given the immense popularity of the retro New Super Mario Bros. Series, I think most fans prefer playing Mario in his 2D playing field. But this was the game that pretty much revolutionized the 3D platformer, and it's still incredibly fun to play. It doesn't look like much in the wake of Super Mario Galaxy, but it trumps Galaxy in the replay department. Who cares if I can play as Luigi after I beat Galaxy? Yay, Cannonball!
Here we go!
Number 7. Yes, the granddaddy of first-person shooters. Okay, if you want to talk about old FPSs, Wolfenstein 3D is actually more primal than this. But Doom was probably the first 3D shooting game that made you afraid to play with the lights off. Turn the volume up full blast and start shooting some imps and cyber demons. There was never anything like it. Yes, I know it's hard to believe that such a simple little game could still be fun to play, given that your movement is only limited to 4 directions, you can't look around or jump, and there's no computer bots to help get you out of danger every time you prick your little finger. But that's why it works. Simplicity. There's no complex storyline, no damsel in distress, no BS. Your mission is simply to walk down that corridor and level the playing field with your double-barreled shotgun, your plasma rifle, and your BFG. Doom 3 was a pretty imaginative take on the series, and is still a fairly well-rounded shooter, but the fact that this one is still playable 20 years after its release says a hell of a lot. Number 6. Remember that other popular fighting game that came out in the early 90s? The one that allowed you to throw, like, fireballs and karate chop your way to victory? Yeah, neither do I. Sorry, Capcom fanboys, but I like my fighters raw with the sight of death. And that death came in the form of ultra-violent fatalities. And silly friendship moves. And babalities. Come on, guys, are we serious here? Seriously, though, we got tired of 9 million incarnations of Street Fighter II. Mortal Kombat just needed one sequel, and it got a great one. 12 playable characters, that's 5 more than the previous game, each with 2 fatalities, a funny friendship move, pit fatalities, babalities, and a ton of Easter eggs. I never lost so much sleep in my youth than from when I played this game to death. It moved the story further, kept the gameplay almost identical to the first game, increased the speed, improved the combos, enhanced the music, and earned a place in my heart for all eternity as simply the best fighting game ever. Now, if only Hollywood would show some backbone and make a freaking R-rated MK movie, I think you all had your spinal cord ripped out by Sub-Zero over there.
Finish him.
Number 5. Can you say best PlayStation game ever? 8 incredibly difficult levels that span from LA to Hong Kong and everywhere in between, 14 playable characters including 2 secret fighters, a ton of weapons in your arsenal including homers, ricochets, napalms, and dynamite, and the ability to not only blow up the Eiffel Tower, but to use it as a bridge to roam the rooftops in Paris. If awesome was a montage, then I just hit you with an awesome one, baby. When you look at the first Twisted Metal game, yeah, not much to look at. Shoddy controls and ugly graphics aside, it's a game that's pretty much forgotten. Sure, it has a certain appeal, being one of the earliest PlayStation games and all. Here's my point. Pop in TM1 and then pop in TM2. One is completely playable, and one feels like a steaming pile of maggot puke. The cars are fun to drive, it's fun just bashing into things, you can turn on a dime, the boss battles are epic, the music is fantastic, and the graphics, well, hey, they aren't much to look at, but they make you feel like you're playing a game, not an interactive movie. Did I mention you can knock opponents off of rooftops, blow off the Statue of Liberty's clothes, fight a giant ice cream truck, and freeze enemies? Dude, this game's got it all. You say you haven't played Twisted Metal 2 yet? Then, sir, you're not a gamer. Go back to playing Candy Crush, you wimp.
I am Calypso, and I thank you for playing Twisted Metal.
Number 4. I hate RPGs. Ever since playing the original Dragon Warrior on my trusty NES, I just have a sour taste for them. And you know what? After playing Final Fantasy XIII, I've just about had it with the series. The only game I've played in the franchise that I would say is definitely worth your time is the one game that introduced most gamers to the genre at all. I know if you were a fan prior to this one's release, Final Fantasy VI is the end-all entry in the franchise. I say, hey, that's all good if you were into the genre at the time, but FF7 just had so many cool things that enticed us to pick it up. Even if turn-based combat, level grinding, and mixing materia just wasn't in the cards for us. It's the only game I can think of where I might actually care more for the story and the characters than the actual gameplay. Don't get me wrong, you'll feel accomplished when you finally get your golden chocobo after spending 30 hours to get it, but who cares about finding Knights of the Round when you've got to save the planet from a meteor? And get this game predates the movie Armageddon, so back then, the concept was pretty badass. Yeah, you might play as an emo punk rocker in purple spandex, but Sephiroth could quite possibly be the meanest video game baddie in history. And come on, who didn't like Sid? And let's not forget, most of us cried like little bitches when we found out what happened to Aeris. The ending of the game was considered so vague that in 2005, Square released a movie sequel that was basically the game's 90-minute ending. It's got a Mr. T look-alike with a machine gun on his arm, wicked summoning spells, the boss battle to end all boss battles, and a storyline that will keep you hooked for 45+ hours. And that's only if you choose to sidestep the hundreds of side quests on your journey to kick Shinra's all-empowering ass. It's the most memorable PlayStation game I've ever experienced, so damn it, why shouldn't it be on my list? Because I said so, biatch! Number 3. Normally I wouldn't include two games in the same franchise on this list. Then again, this really isn't a Super Mario game now, is it? Sure, it's got all the staples of the series, cute colorful worlds, coins, power-ups, and a pair of really egotistical plumbers. But honestly, this game started a genre all its own, and frankly, it's the only franchise that got it right. Yeah, Sonic R and Crash Team Racing didn't seem to work out, did they? 20 insanely fun courses, 2-player battle mode. Do you really need more than that? Now, in all fairness, if I had to choose, I'd take Mario Kart 64 as the definitive kart brawler. 4-player split screen, brother. But after so many years, the original is still really fun to play and holds more of a nostalgia value. And hey, it's really the first of its kind, so that's saying something. Number 2. That's right, I said it. The Beast returns on Super Nintendo and he's pissed. Using state-of-the-art ACM graphics, the developers at Rare were able to deliver a game that somehow managed to look as good as it did and was still extremely fun to play. Yeah, sure, it was just another platformer, but I have to say, those pre-rendered graphics mixed with the kick-ass soundtrack really added a lot to the experience. What other games can you play as two apes riding through the jungles on a rhinoceros? Okay, Donkey Kong Country 2, sure, but before its sequel, this was the only answer to that question. The levels were all unique and fun, there were a ton of secrets to explore, a ton of baddies to pounce on, and a ton of bananas to collect. There really isn't that much to this one aside from the fact that nothing like it had really been seen before, and it remains one of the most standout games on the SNES. And the number one best game of all time, in my humble opinion, is... First, let me start by saying that I'm not a huge Zelda fan. I played the two NES games as a kid, but damn it, I just never got very far. It was the coming of this behemoth that really got me interested in the series at all. There hasn't been a single entry in the series that has come as close to perfection as this game has. It's probably the only game I've beaten all the way through more than 10 times. I don't think I've even played through Super Mario Bros. That many times. The gameplay is smooth and flawless. Every button press is a joy. Every enemy you slaughter with your Master Sword is sheer bliss. It took what fans loved about the original game and enhanced every aspect times infinity. Awesome music? Check. Fun, memorable boss battles? You betcha. Magical killer bees that you could unleash to kill zombified Hyrulean soldiers? Well, why not? The secrets were so fulfilling when you found them, the new weapons you found along the way were exhilarating, and every dungeon you mastered felt like an accomplishment. Say what you want about the contemporary titles like Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess, I really don't have 5 hours to explore one dungeon, okay? Link to the Past was just the perfect balance of puzzle solving, adventure, and fun, and it never gets old. You want an example of the perfect game? Look no further. Screw you, Candy Crush!